Hi, my name is Tyler, a 31-year-old graphic designer who spends his days crafting digital illustrations for a small advertising firm in the bustling heart of Seattle, married for 5 years to Juliette, the woman who has been my emotional anchor since we met in college, though our life together with no children yet has revolved around her dominant presence guiding our every decision, leaving me feeling deeply dependent on her approval and direction. Our apartment overlooking the misty Puget Sound has become a cocoon of codependency, where I often surrender my own desires to maintain harmony, fearing that without her structure, I'd unravel like a poorly sketched outline. We share routines that blend seamlessly, but lately, the weight of her commands has started to feel like invisible chains, pulling me into a state of quiet reliance that I mistake for love. Hello, everyone. The crash of shattering glass yanked me from the haze of my evening sketch session, the sharp sound echoing through our cozy apartment like a warning shot, as I turned to see Juliette standing in the kitchen, her dominant frame rigid amid the fragments of a dropped wine glass scattering across the tiled floor, her eyes wide not with surprise but with a fleeting guilt that she quickly masked behind a tight smile. The air carried the tangy scent of spilled Merlot, mixing with the warm, yeasty aroma of the pizza we'd ordered for our usual Friday night in, and as I rushed over, my bare feet crunching cautiously on the shards, I felt a jolt of concern ripple through me, disrupting the comfortable rhythm of our shared solitude that I'd come to depend on so heavily. Juliette waved me off with her characteristic authority, her hands slicing through the air in a dismissive gesture, saying, "It's nothing, Tyler, just clumsy fingers after a long week." But there was a pause in her voice, a microsecond hesitation that made my stomach twist, as if she were rehearsing lines for a role I wasn't privy to. Our daily life had settled into a predictable pattern, one where I woke to the soft beep of her alarm at dawn, the bedroom filled with the faint lavender scent of her shampoo as she prepared for her job as a marketing executive, her movements efficient and commanding, directing me on what to pack for lunch or reminding me of errands with that firm tone that both reassured and confined me. I'd head to my studio downtown, the rain-slicked streets reflecting the overcast sky, my backpack heavy with sketchpads and tablets, immersing myself in colors and forms that allowed a brief escape from the emotional dependence that defined our marriage. Evenings brought us back together in the living room, where the soft glow of string lights draped over bookshelves cast warm shadows on her face as she scrolled through her phone, occasionally glancing up to issue instructions, like choosing the show we'd watch, her dominant personality ensuring I deferred, finding safety in her lead. That night, as I swept up the glass, the broom's bristles whispering against the floor, Juliette announced casually over the hum of the dishwasher that she was heading out the next evening for a networking event with her colleague Daniela, something about mingling at a downtown bar to build connections for her career. Her words flowed smoothly, but I noticed the way her fingers tightened around her phone, knuckles paling slightly under the kitchen's pendant light, and when a text notification chimed, soft but insistent, she silenced it quickly, her eyes darting away from mine. This moment captures the initial fracture in trust, where Tyler's emotional dependence amplifies subtle nonverbal cues into harbingers of doubt. The first warning sign was already here, in Juliette's evasive body language and quick silencing of her phone, which psychologically signals secrecy and manipulation, exploiting Tyler's codependency to maintain control. Emotionally, it evokes anxiety in Tyler, as his inner justification reflects denial, a common defense mechanism to preserve the illusion of stability in imbalanced relationships. Interpersonally, Juliette's dominant personality fosters this dynamic, where her guarded actions erode mutual vulnerability, turning everyday interactions into power plays. A typical mistake is to think that this is just a phase, as Tyler does, rationalizing ambition over intuition, which prolongs emotional reliance and delays confrontation. This event highlights themes of trust as conditional and fragile, where unaddressed manipulations deepen codependent bonds, setting the stage for escalating suspicion and personal introspection. Ultimately, it underscores how emotional dependence blinds one to red flags, fostering a cycle of anxiety and self-doubt that demands eventual breaking for growth. Internally, doubts flickered like the faulty bulb in our hallway. Was this just her way of maintaining control, or something more? I justified it as her ambition, a trait I'd always admired, pushing away the anxiety that clawed at my dependence. telling myself that questioning her would only highlight my own insecurities. Yet, as we settled on the couch later, the fabric soft and worn under us, her laughter at the TV comedy felt forced, a brittle edge to it that didn't match the relaxed curve of her shoulders. The room's warmth from the heater contrasted with the chill settling in my chest, and I found myself watching her more than the screen, noting how she positioned her phone face down on the coffee table, its edges aligned perfectly as if guarding a secret. What if this was the start of her pulling away, manipulating the emotional strings she'd woven around me? The thought lingered as the night deepened, leaving me with a hook of unease. Why did her announcement feel like a scripted diversion, and what hidden currents were stirring beneath our codependent surface? The following morning unfolded with the familiar patter of rain against our bedroom window, the gray light filtering through sheer curtains that billowed slightly in the draft, casting diffused shadows across the rumpled sheets where Juliette lay. Her dominant form sprawled confidently even in sleep, one arm draped possessively over the pillow I'd vacated moments earlier. As I brewed coffee in the kitchen, the rich, nutty aroma filling the space and mingling with the faint metallic tang of wet earth from outside, I replayed the previous night's incident, my emotionally dependent mind grappling with the subtle shift in her demeanor. The way she'd evaded my questions about the event with a vague wave, her eyes not meeting mine, sparking the first threads of suspicion through emotional manipulation that I couldn't quite name. She emerged soon after, her footsteps firm on the hardwood floor, dressed in her power suit with its sharp lines accentuating her authority, and when I asked casually about Daniela, she paused mid-sip of her coffee, her lips pursing before responding with a clipped, "It's just work stuff, Tyler. Don't overthink it." Her tone laced with that familiar edge that made me feel small, dependent on her reassurance to steady my doubts. Throughout the day at work, surrounded by the hum of computers and the crisp scent of fresh printer paper in the open office, my thoughts oscillated between hope and worry, the fluorescent lights overhead buzzing like the persistent hum of anxiety in my chest. A minor conflict arose when a colleague teased me about being whipped after I mentioned deferring weekend plans to Juliette's schedule, his laugh echoing in the break room, stirring frustration that mirrored my growing inner tension. Why did her dominance, once comforting, now feel like a cage? By evening, as I returned home through the drizzle, umbrella dripping in the entryway, Juliette was already preparing to leave, her perfume, a bold, spicy blend, wafting strongly as she adjusted her earrings in the hall mirror, her reflection showing a furtive glance at her phone before slipping it into her purse. She kissed me goodbye, her lips firm and quick, but as she turned, I caught a glimpse of her screen lighting up with a message, the words "can't wait" visible for a split second before she darkened it, her hand trembling ever so slightly in the warm hallway light. Excuses followed when she returned later than expected, the clock ticking past midnight with its rhythmic insistence. Her explanation of traffic delays delivered with evasive eyes and a nervous tuck of hair behind her ear, contrasting the calm exterior she projected. Here, the escalation of suspicion through evasive excuses illustrates the psychological strain of cognitive dissonance in codependent relationships, where Tyler's hope clashes with mounting evidence of deceit. Juliette's nervous gestures and delayed return psychologically embody emotional manipulation, using dominance to deflect scrutiny and reinforce Tyler's dependence on her narratives. Emotionally, this triggers a roller coaster from worry to frustration, manifesting in physical sensations like a racing heartbeat, as denial gives way to emerging distrust. Interpersonally, it reveals power imbalances, where her calm facade masks vulnerability, perpetuating a cycle that isolates Tyler and stifles open communication. Many people choose to remain silent at this point, and in vain, as unvoiced doubts allow betrayal to fester, amplifying fear and anger. Thematically, it explores denial's role in prolonging toxic dynamics, where small lies accumulate consequences, eroding trust and forcing internal reflection. This key event signals Tyler's gradual shift toward self-awareness, highlighting how betrayal in codependent unions often stems from one partner's need for autonomy, ultimately catalyzing the victim's path to independence and emotional resilience. Internally, fear mingled with anger. Was this manipulation, her way of testing my dependence? Moments of near certainty gripped me, like when I overheard a hushed phone call the next day, her voice low and intimate from the bathroom, the door cracked just enough for whispers to escape. But I clung to belief, rationalizing it as work stress, my heartbeat racing in the quiet apartment. The tension built through small mysteries. Odd meetings mentioned in passing, her phone now password protected. A change she dismissed with a dominant shrug, and strange glances when I entered rooms unexpectedly, her body language shifting from open to guarded, arms crossing protectively. Frustration peaked during a dinner where her delayed responses to my questions about her day left silences heavy with unspoken words, the clink of forks against plates amplifying my growing distrust. Yet, in calm external scenes like our evening walks along the waterfront, the salty sea air cooling my skin, her hand in mine felt genuine, pulling me back from the edge of suspicion, though the sense of betrayal loomed like gathering storm clouds, leaving me in emotional highs and lows that eroded my dependent foundation. Driven by the accumulating whispers of doubt, I began my quiet investigation the next week, the apartment's familiar spaces now feeling like a labyrinth of hidden truths. As I waited for Juliette to leave for work, the door clicking shut with a finality that echoed in the empty hallway, my hands cold despite the morning sun slanting through the windows and warming the wooden floors. Moral dilemmas churned within me. Trust versus the need for certainty. As I approached her nightstand, the drawer sliding open with a soft rasp, revealing scattered receipts and a notebook, its pages filled with her bold handwriting detailing appointments that didn't align with her shared calendar. My breath pausing in shallow inhales amid the tense silence. Small victories came in finding a hotel keycard tucked away, its plastic surface smooth under my fingers, but setbacks followed when I realized it could be from a business trip, a red herring that twisted my suspicion into knots, leaving me pacing the living room, the rug's texture rough against my socks. Observing her more intently, I noted how she now angled her body away during conversations, her dominant posture softening only when alone with her phone, the dim screen glowing in the evening lamplight as notifications chimed softly, her fingers hovering before typing responses with deliberate taps. One afternoon, as rain drummed steadily on the roof, I checked her laptop left open on the kitchen table, its fan whirring faintly, and discovered deleted emails recovered from the trash, vague but affectionate exchanges with an unknown contact, my heart pounding in my ears like distant thunder, disappointment mixing with growing determination. She noticed my scrutiny that evening, her eyes narrowing under the warm glow of the pendant lights as she offered mild excuses. "Privacy is important, Tyler." Her voice steady but her hands fidgeting with a napkin, folding it into precise squares. Tyler's active investigation and Juliette's defensive response mark a critical pivot from passive dependence to moral grappling, psychologically embodying the tension of trust violation in codependent structures. Her fidgeting and excuses reflect manipulative deflection, using dominance to invoke privacy as a shield, which interpersonally heightens the cat-and-mouse dynamic and exacerbates Tyler's isolation. Emotionally, this induces mixed feelings, pain from setbacks like ambiguous edents, yet determination from small victories, illustrating how suspicion activates stress responses while fostering resolve. A typical mistake is to think that this is just a phase, but Tyler's persistence counters denial, navigating red herrings that test ethical boundaries. Thematically, it addresses consequences of betrayal, where gathering proof risks guilt but empowers agency, transforming victimhood into proactive self-protection. This event underscores interpersonal conclusions. Dominant personalities often resist vulnerability, perpetuating cycles of manipulation that demand confrontation for resolution. Ultimately, it promotes personal growth by challenging codependency, encouraging Tyler to reclaim narrative control and build resilience against emotional exploitation. An unexpected detail emerged during a tense conversation with her sister over the phone, overheard accidentally as I entered the room, the air thick with the scent of brewing tea. The sister's casual mention of Juliette's date night plans mismatched her stories to me, a red herring that briefly misled me into thinking it was about us, only to heighten the cat-and-mouse tension. Slow movements defined my next step. Waiting until she slept, the bedroom shrouded in darkness save for the phone's faint charge light, I entered her passcode, guessed from our anniversary, and scrolled through messages, the screen's cool blue illuminating my face, revealing plans for secret outings, but nothing conclusive yet, my nervous gestures betraying my inner turmoil as I replaced it carefully. The cliffhanger came one stormy night, wind howling outside and rattling the windows, when I followed her to what she called a late meeting. Parking discreetly and watching from afar as she entered a cafe, the steam from my breath fogging the car glass. There, she met a man, their interaction intimate. A hand on his arm, laughter shared. But an accidental encounter ensued when he noticed me lingering, leading to a tense, whispered exchange outside. His evasion fueling my pain and resolve, leaving me with a mysterious clue. A name, Keith, whispered in haste, propelling me toward the undeniable truth amid the cold rain soaking my clothes. The climax erupted on a rain-lashed evening. The apartment transformed into a stage of shadows and flickering candlelight we'd lit to combat a power flicker. The scent of melting wax blending with the earthy petrichor seeping through cracked windows as I confronted Juliette on her return. Her coat dripping on the entry mat, her dominant composure cracking under my steady gaze. "Who's Keith?" I asked, my voice low but firm, the words hanging in the charged air like suspended raindrops. And she froze, her hand midway to hanging her coat. Her face paling in the warm glow, eyes widening with a mix of fear and defiance before she straightened, attempting to reclaim control. There was a long pause, the only sound the distant rumble of thunder and the creak of floorboards under her shifting weight. Her lips parting slowly as if weighing each syllable, finally murmuring, "What are you talking about?" But her trembling hands betrayed the gaslighting, fingers twisting the hem of her blouse in micro-movements that spoke volumes of inner panic. As accusations spilled from me, tears stinging my eyes, my body tense on the couch's edge. I described the messages, the meetings, my voice breaking in short phrases amid emotional swings from rage to shock. The room's dim light falling on her face, highlighting the quiet sighs escaping her lips. She countered with excuses. "It's not what it seems. He's just a friend." Her tone manipulative, shifting blame to our codependency. "You rely on me too much, Tyler." I needed space. But the words rang hollow, her eyes darting to the door as if seeking escape, her posture slumping from dominant to defensive. An unexpected twist shattered the illusion. In her desperation, the truth slipped out accidentally. "Keith understands me unlike you?" she blurted, her hand clapping over her mouth too late, revealing not just an affair but a deeper emotional entanglement. The admission hanging like a thunderclap, my internal monologue a whirlwind of struggle. Anger surging, yet I maintained composure, understanding I could only control my reactions. The accidental slip during confrontation represents the emotional apex, shattering denial and exposing betrayal's core in a codependent marriage, psychologically triggering grief stages like shock and rage in Tyler. Juliette's blurted truth and subsequent gaslighting highlight manipulative tactics rooted in her dominance, emotionally contrasting her panic with Tyler's composure, which signals emerging self-control. Interpersonally, this reveal disrupts power imbalances, as the deeper entanglement underscores how unmet needs drive infidelity, eroding trust irreparably. Many people choose to remain silent at this point, and in vain, but Tyler's accusations facilitate catharsis, swinging from despair to resolve. Thematically, it emphasizes consequences of betrayal, where excuses amplify disappointment, forcing recognition of codependency's toxicity. This twist catalyzes husband growth, affirming he can only govern his actions, not her manipulations. Emotionally, post-confrontation exhaustion yields empowerment, illustrating resilience's birth from pain. Overall, it concludes that such climaxes, though devastating, dismantle illusions, paving ways for personal autonomy and healthier relational boundaries. The scene intensified as Keith himself appeared at the door, drawn by her frantic text I'd glimpsed, his knock echoing like fate's intrusion. Rain sluicing off his umbrella as he entered, tense and awkward, his eyes avoiding mine while Juliette panicked, tears streaming down her cheeks in uncontrolled sobs. Emotional contrast defined the moment. Her frantic gestures, hands waving erratically. His rigid stance, jaw clenched. My composed silence, breathing measured despite the heartache. "It's over," I said finally, the phrase simple but resolute, disappointment giving way to resolve as she begged, her voice cracking in pauses filled with despair. But I stepped back, the door's sound as it closed behind him symbolizing the breach's finality. After, alone in the quiet apartment, creaking settling around me, my emotional state shifted to profound exhaustion. the betrayal's weight lifting slightly in the catharsis of truth, leaving me shattered yet strangely empowered, ready to reclaim my independence from the codependent web she'd woven. In the aftermath, Juliette's reactions veered from tearful pleas to dominant outbursts, her voice echoing through the apartment during heated discussions, the air thick with the scent of untouched dinners cooling on the table as she demanded reconciliation. Her hands gesturing emphatically, but I felt my heart calming, muscles relaxing for the first time in years amid the inner conflicts of lingering dependence and moral dilemmas about forgiveness. Family impacts rippled outward. My parents, informed over a strained video call, their faces pixelated on the screen, concern etching their features, offered quiet support, while her side accused me of overreacting, adding legal tensions as we navigated shared finances, the stack of bank statements on the desk a tangible reminder of our intertwined lives. Small setbacks plagued me, like finding a forgotten photo in a drawer, its glossy surface evoking bittersweet memories that tempted relapse into codependency. But victories emerged in therapy sessions, the counselor's office smelling of herbal tea, where I voiced my emotions, gaining clarity that bolstered my confidence. One sunset evening, as golden light filtered through the windows, painting the walls in warm hues, Juliette approached with minimal dialogue, her eyes downcast, murmuring, "I didn't mean to hurt you." But the words held power in their admission, emphasizing my victory as I replied softly, "I know, but I can't stay." The simplicity underscoring my decision to leave, refusing to be destroyed by her manipulations. Tyler's decisive rejection amid aftermath tensions signifies a breakthrough in personal growth, psychologically shifting from dependence to autonomy by setting boundaries against Juliette's dominance. Her pleas and outbursts reflect guilt-driven manipulation, while family reactions add external pressures, interpersonally highlighting betrayal's ripple effects on support networks and finances. Emotionally, this evokes relief and clarity, with physical sensations like relaxing muscles symbolizing release from codependent burdens, though inner conflicts like moral dilemmas persist. Small victories in therapy counter setbacks, building confidence to refuse destruction. A typical mistake is to think that this is just a phase, but Tyler's powerful minimal dialogue emphasizes victory, using symbolism like closing doors for closure. Thematically, it explores consequences of betrayal as catalysts for self-reflection, transforming past reliance into future-oriented resolve. This event underscores emotional conclusions. Separation fosters lightness and empowerment, breaking manipulative cycles. Ultimately, it illustrates how navigating post-betrayal decisions cultivates resilience, turning vulnerability into strength and preparing for independent renewal. Inner reflections deepened during solitary walks along the Sound, the cool breeze carrying salty sprays that invigorated my senses, my footsteps steady on the pebbled path as I pondered the past's codependent traps and a future of self-reliance, the door closing behind me symbolically as I packed a bag, the latch clicking with finality. Relief washed over me like the first breath of fresh air after surfacing from underwater, my body lightening with each step away from the apartment, hints of resolution forming in the sunrise the next morning, its rays piercing the horizon and illuminating paths untaken, guiding me toward separation with a tense but controlled resolve. With the separation formalized in a quiet mediator's office, the papers signed under the hum of air conditioning and the faint scent of stale coffee, clear boundaries established like firm lines in a fresh sketch, I stepped into a new life of personal empowerment, the apartment now mine alone echoing with freedom rather than echoes of dominance. I cultivated independence through new habits. Morning jogs along the waterfront, the crisp air filling my lungs with invigorating chill, waves lapping rhythmically against the shore as I ran, sweat beading on my skin in symbolic release. Evenings dedicated to hobbies like painting abstracts in my studio, the brush strokes fluid and unguided, colors blending without external direction. Friends reemerged, old college buddies joining for coffee meetups in cozy cafes, the steam rising from mugs mingling with laughter that felt genuine, free from manipulation, fostering inner growth that replaced codependency with self-assurance. Confidence bloomed in simple joys. Brewing tea in the quiet kitchen, the herbal aroma soothing as sunlight streamed through windows, or strolling markets, the vibrant hues of produce under market lights sparking creative ideas without needing approval. Reflections on the betrayal deepened my understanding. lessons in recognizing emotional manipulation early, the personal growth from shattering dependence leading to wisdom that betrayal, though painful, unveiled my strength. The sense of closure came in cathartic moments, like watching a sunset from my balcony, the sky ablaze in oranges and pinks, a slight hope flickering for future connections built on equality. Overall, this journey taught that codependency masks vulnerabilities, but confronting betrayal fosters resilience, leaving me calm, satisfied, and empowered, bitterness fading into personal victory and quiet strength. In this resolution, Tyler's embrace of independence through new habits symbolizes post-betrayal growth, psychologically integrating lessons from codependency into empowered self-reliance. Sensory joys like sunsets evoke catharsis, emotionally replacing bitterness with calm wisdom, as reflections on manipulation highlight betrayal's role in unveiling personal strength. Interpersonally, established boundaries free him from dominance, fostering equitable future ties and inner confidence. Many people choose to remain silent at this point, and in vain, clinging to past patterns, but Tyler's proactive changes affirm satisfaction in solitude. Thematically, it stresses personal growth's triumph over denial, where consequences yield hope and closure. This final phase concludes that betrayal, while scarring, dismantles toxic dependencies, promoting emotional maturity and relational insight. Overall, it offers psychological insights. Resilience emerges from adversity, transforming dependence into authenticity, leaving a legacy of strength and subtle optimism for renewed life. Throughout the narrative, Tyler's journey from dependence to empowerment encapsulates betrayal's psychological arc in codependent marriages, emphasizing trust's erosion through manipulation and denial's delay of inevitable confrontation. Key events reveal emotional manipulation as a dominant partner's tool, leading to suspicion, proof-gathering, and climactic revelations that expose interpersonal imbalances. Consequences manifest in relational dissolution and family strains, yet catalyze profound growth, shifting denial to acceptance and vulnerability to resilience. Thematically, it underscores betrayal as a painful but transformative force, teaching early recognition of red flags and the value of self-agency. Tyler's evolution offers cathartic closure, illustrating how overcoming codependency fosters wisdom, independence, and hope, providing listeners with emotional insights on navigating infidelity toward personal liberation and healthier dynamics.